皆さんまた来てくださってありがとうございます。またトランプさんを乗っけてみたいと思います。これは10月にインタビューを受けて、今の大統領に何点をつけますかっていう聞かれたアフガン問題、教育問題、あらゆる問題から、バイデンさんに F をつけたインタビューです。それではどうぞ。
Take a look. Mr. President, thank you so much for having us here at Mar-a-Lago.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's one word that could sum up the Biden administration, it would be crisis. There's the energy crisis, the supply chain crisis, the COVID crisis. If you look back on the last 10 months of the Biden administration, what grade would you give them?
Well, it's probably the worst presidency in history. I can't imagine. I used to say Jimmy Carter. Not a big fan of Bush getting us into the Middle East, to be honest with you. I think this is, though, the worst in the history of our country. If you look at Afghanistan and that horrible thing that happened to our nation with these young people being killed, and by the way, so badly injured, we have over 20, no arms, no legs, nobody ever talks about them. And then to leave $85 billion worth of the best military equipment, brand new, much of it brand new, better than what we have, right out of the box. And they didn't explode it. They didn't blow it up like they said.
Yeah.
They did a couple of old planes that were not very valuable. No, I think that was the worst. And I'll tell you what, it's getting to be pretty close. What's happening on the border is one of the great embarrassments for our country also.
Well, so we'll talk about those individually, but what grade would you give the Biden administration?
I think you have to say an F, and not an F plus. It would be an F. It's a failed administration. It's a disaster. I've never seen anything like it. And by the way, I wish he'd do well. You know, I love the country more than I love anything. Family, God, country, you know, we have to take care of our country. I would love to see him do well. I don't think there's ever been a greater embarrassment as an administration. And we had everything ready to go. We handed him on a plate. Whether it was the border or Afghanistan, we were getting out, but we were going to get out with great dignity and strength.
Well, you know, Joe Biden was sold to us as a guy who understood foreign relations. He was a United States Senator for 36 years. He was on the Foreign Relations Committee. He was a vice president for 8 years. He was sold to us as a guy who understood foreign relations.
Well, his own Secretary of State, Gates, said very strongly he never made a correct decision in his life. Now, that was
on
made
policy
numerous times by numerous people, but it was made even recently by Gates and others that worked with him. And I think Afghanistan was a disaster. Not getting out, I was the one that set it up. I brought it down to 2,500 soldiers, and we were in great shape, and they weren't going to touch us. They knew they weren't going to touch us. And then he took out the military before he took out the people. He left maybe thousands of people that are Americans,
sure,
and people that should be taken out.
Why do you think he didn't listen to his military?
Well, I think the military is largely discredited. I think our top people in the military are discredited. He might see that if he understands it. He might see that. I wanted to get out also. I remember Millie telling me, because I said, I want every screw, every bolt, every nut, every tank. I want to take the tents, you know, the big tents that hold the equipment and the planes. I want everything out. Getting the planes out, you just fly them into Pakistan and then take them over to our country. So easy. They left everything. But I remember Millie saying, and he told me this, and I lost a lot of respect when he said it. Sir, we'll save money if we leave the equipment. I said, save money if we leave a $50 million airplane or a $10 million tank? You think we're saving money by not putting it into a plane or flying it out? I said, what does that mean? Sir, it's cheaper to leave it than it is to take them. And I said, that's a fool talking. No, when Millie said that, I lost such respect for him. I said, give it to me again. Tell me again. I want to hear it one more time. And he said that. I really lost a lot of respect for him.
We've got a school board controversy that feeds into the Virginia gubernatorial race. But more important is the fact that we are now at a point in American history where parents are being referred to as domestic terrorists by the National School Board Association. They took it back after the outrage. But you've got an Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who's ready to deploy national law enforcement to supervise what's going on in local jurisdictions, which is a job for the sheriffs and the local police. And he is doubling down. We heard the hearings this week.
I've been watching the school board hearings more closely than I ever have, to be honest.
Right.
And it's so interesting.
Yeah,
the parents are incensed. They're not terrorists. They're just people that are so upset. They're angry, they're hurt, they're crying because their children are being taught things that, in our opinion, in my opinion, in a vast majority of the people in this country's opinion, they don't want their children to hear about this stuff. They want to go back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. And they want to hear that black people are good, and they want to hear that white people are good.
Yes.
This is the division that's being caused by these programs are just terrible.
The amazing part of this is the National School Board Association, who drafted this letter, ends up, the administration promotes the head of that association, gives him a plum job. We now know that there was coordination between the Biden administration and the National School Board Association to get that letter to the Attorney General so they could start going after parents. The saddest part of all this is that there was a young girl raped. The school board knew about it. The superintendent lied about it. And now we've got a gubernatorial race in Virginia. It will be a forecast to 2022, the midterms. How do you see Youngkin doing against McAuliffe next Tuesday?
I think he's going to do very well. Look, McAuliffe made a tremendous mistake, but it's really probably not a mistake from his standpoint. He believes it.
Right.
He said the parents have nothing to do with what their children are going to learn. They have nothing to do with it. I heard that statement. I said, is that going to be bad? Is that going to be like deplorables? Remember when Hillary made the statement deplorables? I said, that's not a nice word. And it blew up. I think this is going to cause him tremendous problems come Tuesday.
Do you think Youngkin's going to win?
I think he's a good man. And I think he's a successful man. He loves Virginia. He loves the country. I think he should win. I mean, he should win. I'll be honest. My base has to turn out. If my base turns out, he's going to win. And I hope they turn out. I really want them to turn out.
It's interesting, don't you think, that they are now referring to Youngkin as a Trump acolyte, using you as a way to get the Democrats to come out and vote?
Well, I think it backfires because I think that gets the base to come.
Let's talk about inflation. You talked about how you left this country in great shape. We now have inflation of 5.4%. Now the prices of beef are up 17.6%. The average American family spending an extra $175 a month. Gas prices are up to $7 in California, $5 in New York. We can't afford these people. And Joe Biden, when he was asked about gas prices, what he's going to do about it, he says, I don't see anything that's going to significantly reduce gas prices in the near future.
Incredible.
He doesn't know.
No, he doesn't have any idea. Look, one of the things I was most proud about, our country became energy independent. We didn't need the Middle East. We didn't need Russia. We didn't need anybody. We had our own. We had more than them. We were number one by far over Saudi Arabia and you know this, and Russia. Number one by far. I had the pipelines going, Keystone XL pipeline. Amazingly, I ended the Russian pipeline. I was not good to Russia. I got along well with Russia. I got along well with Putin. But they weren't happy with Trump, I can tell you that. But Biden opened up this big, massive pipeline all over Europe, but he closed down the XL. And I don't have to say it because you heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
More importantly, we're energy independent no longer. I was so proud of that. First time really in history that, you know, they say 75 years, but I don't believe we were ever energy independent.
It was big.
We were energy independent. We were doing so much, the prices, it was $1.87 a gallon, okay? If you look at the numbers.
Crazy.
And now, yesterday, they had, in a certain section of California, $7.70. It's always the lead.
Yeah.
It's going to follow, and it's going to go a lot higher than that. And Biden sent people to go see Russia, Saudi Arabia, and other members of OPEC that we need help because we don't have enough. Now, when you talk about inflation, the biggest factor, in my opinion, is no energy. The trucks, the factories, everything, the deliveries, the planes, everything. It's so energy-based that the energy now is so expensive to get. We don't have enough oil. You know, I filled up the strategic reserves for almost nothing. When oil hit bottom, we were almost empty with the reserves, and nobody thought of it. I said, you know, this would be a great time to fill it up. We'll buy it cheap. I never got credit. I don't think anybody's ever mentioned it. But I bought 75 million barrels, I believe it was. 75 million barrels, which is a massive order. It was good for two things. The prices got so low that it was hurting our energy jobs, and we bought it cheap as hell. And now he wants to use that that energy, that oil that I bought at a great price that should be used in cases of emergency, he wants to now drain it so that the prices come down.
But he said it'll save us about 18 cents a gallon.
Oh, it's not 18 cents.
He doesn't.
It would save. I could get that down within 6 months. I'll bet you I could get it down to $2.50. It's going to be over $10.
Doesn't he know how to do it?
I don't think he does, because his answer was weird. You can get it down a few cents. A few cents? No, you get it down many dollars.
How do you do that?
You have to let the oil companies go back to work. They ended leases. They ended Anwar because of Lisa Murkowski, who's done a terrible job.
In Alaska.
She's not a Republican. She says she's a Republican in Alaska. Ronald Reagan tried to get it. Bush's tried. Everybody tried to get it. I got it done. It was all done. Maybe it's bigger than Saudi Arabia. Okay, maybe. They've tried for many, many decades to get it done. I got it done. This would have added to our supply. We're already the biggest in the world by far. Now we're not the biggest in the world anymore. We've ended all the leases on government lands that, frankly, were pumping out for years and not hurting it, done in an environmental way. And if you look at natural gas is very clean. We got windmills destroying our landscapes, killing all the birds.
And not necessarily
the energy
effective.
is so expensive. And you know where the turbines are made? Every one of them.
China.
Germany and China.
Still ahead.
皆さん、お帰りなさい。どうでしたか？お父さんのまた俺の備蓄使ったな。また言ってましたね。でも今回はエデュケーション、やっぱり、コンサーバティブな親御さんもいっぱいいらっしゃって、アメリカにもこの 3R、読み書きそろばんっていうことがあるんですね。だから子供は子供らしくきっちり読み書きそろばんができて、そして良い子に育ってくれと、そんな政治的な思想やそんなものを子供のうちからやる必要はないっていうその今のカリキュラムに反対している親対国というか、今のバイデン政権教育委員会っていう感じで、これは結果的には、共和党が勝利したので親御さんたちの勝利っていうふうに終わりました。アフガン問題はまだ帰ってこれていないのでまだ解決していないですって感じです。またこれからどんどん、トランプさんの、アップしていきたいと思いますのでまた見てくださいね。ありがとうございます。